What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and welcome back to Pop Culture Explained. And today, we are launching a brand new series here on the channel called The Caught Up Show. And the focus here is to provide you with everything you need to know before you jump into a series. And for our first episode, we're going to give you everything you need to know before you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. So if you've never seen a Marvel movie, or you have seen it, need to get caught up, this video is for you. So the first movie that's relevant to this discussion is Captain America: The First Avenger, which introduces Captain America Steve Rogers to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, Steve Rogers wanted to enlist in the Army and fight in World War II, but the Army decides that he was simply just too scrawny to be a soldier and didn't want him. Now, Steve's best friend, Bucky Barnes, was accepted and does enlist, but quickly after completing his training, Bucky's promoted to the rank of sergeant and sent to England to fight the German Army. Shortly thereafter, Bucky gets captured by the Germans and is turned over to Hydra, a terrorist organization that worked alongside the Germans and wants to take over the world. Now, as a prisoner of Hydra, Bucky's experimented on by their lead scientist, Arnim Zola, until he's rescued by who else but his best buddy in the whole wide world, Steve Rogers. But when Steve shows up, he's not the wimpy guy that Bucky remembers. He's Captain America now, because he was the subject of an experiment conducted by the US military to turn him into a super soldier. He's also powered by freedom. But after being rescued, Bucky returns to the front lines and fights alongside Steve to try and take out Hydra. But during a fight with Hydra soldiers on a train, Bucky falls and is believed to have been dead. Now later, Captain America sacrifices his life by flying a plane containing weapons of mass destruction into the ocean instead of allowing them to detonate. Later, we would find out that Steve was not really dead, but was just frozen in a block of ice. And after being found and thawed out, he goes from super soldier to superhero, becoming one of the founding members of the Avengers and saving the Earth from an alien invasion. Literally, the story of Captain America is a scrawny kid gets rejected from the military, only to be experimented on by the military, and then he's frozen in ice, becomes a human popsicle, gets thawed out, and becomes a hero. But still, Steve was haunted by the trauma he experienced as a soldier, most of which centered around the loss of Bucky. In his second solo film, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Steve meets a guy named Sam Wilson while jogging, and it turns out Sam is an Air Force veteran who runs a support group for veterans dealing with PTSD. And it turns out Sam had also lost his best friend in combat in Afghanistan, so they had a lot in common, and Sam was basically becoming Steve's new bestie. Now, around this time, Captain America was working with S.H.I.E.L.D., which was basically a massive intelligence agency with nearly unlimited resources that deals with threats to the United States and the planet. But instead of using their resources to engage in things like humanitarian efforts, S.H.I.E.L.D. built weapons. But as it also turned out, S.H.I.E.L.D. had been infiltrated by Hydra, and they planned to kill a bunch of people using S.H.I.E.L.D. weaponry. So Sam decides that he's going to help Captain America, Black Widow, and Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., stop Hydra's plot, and he also reveals that during his time in the Air Force, he learned how to use a set of mechanical wings to fly, hence how he became known as the Falcon, because the apparatus that he used to fly was called the Falcon. Now, as they attempt to thwart Hydra's plan, Captain America and company encounter an adversary named the Winter Soldier who nearly kills all of them, and who also happens to be none other than the presumed dead Bucky Barnes. Bucky did not die when he fell from the train due to the experiments that Hydra had done on him prior to his rescue, which greatly enhanced his durability. Bucky was discovered barely alive by a soldier from the Soviet Union and was kept alive as a prisoner for years until he became the test subject for the Soviet Union's Winter Soldier program, which of course brought in Arnim Zola to experiment on Bucky once again because Hydra was now working for the Soviet Union. These guys get around. Now they outfit Bucky with a badass cybernetic arm to replace the one that he lost in the fall and use electroshock therapy to erase his memories. And he basically becomes the perfect weapon as he's completely obedient to them when a code phrase is spoken, and he's a skilled killer due to his training and physiological upgrades. Now throughout the Cold War, the Winter Soldier would carry out multiple missions for the Soviets and Hydra, including high-profile assassinations like JFK and Howard and Maria Stark, Iron Man's parents, and was kept in a chamber between missions that kept him from aging. Now, as you might expect, if you're really good at deciphering a deeper meaning behind the movie titles, Captain America: The Winter Soldier features an epic fight between, you guessed it, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Now during the fight, Captain America rips off the mask covering Bucky Barnes' face and learns his true identity. But when he says Bucky's name, the Winter Soldier hesitates briefly before saying, "Who the hell is Bucky?" But back at Hydra's headquarters following the fight, the Winter Soldier starts to remember bits and pieces of his life, including his near-death experience, Zola's experiments on him, and he begins to realize that he knows Steve Rogers, but then also becomes pissed off that Sam Wilson's his new bestie and that Steve Rogers seems to have left him behind. Now Hydra wipes his mind again, but during the final showdown between the Winter Soldier and Captain America, Steve is able to jog his memory once again. Now after Cap falls from a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, Bucky saves his life by pulling him from a river and then sets off to try and rediscover who he truly is. Now Falcon becomes an Avenger after fighting alongside the team in Avengers: Age of Ultron, which sees Tony Stark creating an artificial intelligence named Ultron that turns into a villain and tries to destroy the world. But in doing so, he basically wipes out the country of Sokovia. Now this makes the international community really pissed off towards the Avengers, and in Captain America: Civil War, the UN meets to sign the Sokovia Accords, which will basically set up an international panel that's designed to oversee the superheroes. Now, the accords are supposed to be signed in Vienna, but a bomb goes off and security tapes implicate Bucky as the bomber, making him a wanted man, not only by the authorities, but by T'Challa the Black Panther, whose father T'Chaka was killed in the explosion and who wants to kill Bucky Barnes now. This guy's just pissing everybody off. But Captain America and Falcon track down Bucky in Romania, and Steve warns him that he's in danger, as if Bucky didn't know. Now, Bucky tells Cap that the real UN bomber was Helmut Zemo, who lost his family in Sokovia and wanted to take out the Avengers. And by framing Bucky for the bombing, he almost got his wish. Captain America, Falcon, Wanda Maximoff, and Ant-Man try to bring Zemo in on their own, while Iron Man, Black Widow, Black Panther, War Machine, Vision, and Peter Parker are sent by the US Secretary of State Thunderbolt Ross to capture them all for violating the Sokovia Accords. Now, this results in a fight between the Avengers, but ultimately Cap and Bucky escape. But after learning that Bucky was not to blame, Iron Man tracks down Steve and Bucky, but after Zemo reveals that the Winter Soldier killed Iron Man's dad, Iron Man in turn attacks him. Can we all also agree here that the fight between Captain America, Bucky, and Iron Man was like the greatest moment from that whole movie? It was epic. But Captain America defeats Iron Man and T'Challa because he's a beast, and he invites Bucky to take refuge in Wakanda. Now, Bucky agrees, and T'Challa's sister Shuri restores all of Bucky's memories, and then he also receives a pretty awesome upgraded cybernetic arm. Now, Bucky stays in Wakanda until it's invaded by Thanos' forces in Avengers Infinity War because, you know, Bucky just can't catch a break. And to make a long story short, Thanos was a guy that went across the universe searching for the 6 super powerful Infinity Stones, which he wanted to unite and then use their combined power to eliminate half the life in the universe in order to restore balance. But his forces invade Wakanda because the Vision's being kept there, and the last stone that Thanos needed, the Mind Stone, was embedded inside of his head. And so Falcon, along with pretty much every superhero on Earth, show up in Wakanda, and both he and Bucky battle alongside the rest of the heroes against Thanos. Now, their resistance proves to be futile because Thanos succeeds in obtaining the Mind Stone, and then he snaps his fingers, half the world's population just starts turning to dust, including both Falcon and Bucky. Now, in the next movie, Avengers Endgame, that movie focused on the superheroes that were not erased from the snap, going back in time and trying to undo the snap by gathering the Infinity Stones themselves from various points in the timeline so they can do their own snap that'll reverse the effects of Thanos' snap. That's a lot of snaps. And really, that's the only relevance this has for Falcon and Winter Soldier because of the fact that the Avengers were successful and they basically managed to undo the snap. But Steve Rogers was supposed to go back in time to replace the stone so the time stream wouldn't be all screwed up. And for the most part, he did. But instead of doing that and then just returning to the present day like he was supposed to, he stays in the past and lives out his entire life that he never got to experience with his girlfriend, Peggy Carter. He then shows up at the end of the film as an old man rambling about how great things were when he was younger and how kids have green hair these days and it's beyond everything, and meets with Bucky and Falcon. Now, when Falcon laments the fact that he now has to live in a world with no Captain America in it, Captain America hands Falcon the shield. Now, this is a somewhat tense moment because Bucky's basically just standing there watching his best friend pass along his legacy to the guy that replaced him as his best friend, but he gives Sam a little nod to let him know that he was cool with it, even though it stung a little bit. So yeah, that's basically all you need to know going into the Disney Plus series, so now you can dive in, no matter how much of the MCU you've seen, because now you're all basically caught up. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Thank you guys for watching. We will catch you all later. Peace.